Thanks a lot, and good morning from my time zone. Thanks. So for me, it's, I think, like 4 a.m. in the morning, but really happy to be here today and talk about what XAIN, the expandable AI network, actually does. I find it quite funny that Jasmine was talking about the German crypto space or the German DLT space, and she mentioned that the majority of German crypto projects is actually based in Berlin, so are we. And she also said that the majority of projects in Germany are based in the finance and crypto branch. We are not. So what we are basically doing is we are building industry solutions for enterprises to do quite a lot of things. But let's start off at the beginning, which is the problem. So when it comes to the problem, my job includes, I'm doing business development for the XAIN AG and the XAIN Foundation. So it's business development and ecosystem development, and what that includes is that I talk to our customers. So our customers are spread throughout the automotive industry, throughout the logistics industry, but also in general mobility. And the more I talk to my automotive customers, I get the same answer over and over again. Their biggest fear for German OEMs, or generally speaking also for US market this goes, their biggest fear is that they are going to become a hardware supplier to software companies. And I think that is a really legit fear, and this is basically driven because the software companies, they actually know how to use data. But we can see over and over again that currently the OEMs simply do not fully understand how to use their data, even if they have the data at hand and could combine forces to acquire similar effects as Google, Amazon, Facebook or so can do. So what we are basically doing is we're building an ecosystem where enterprises as well as the developers and humans and also machines can collaborate with each other to monetize their currently idling assets. So this is me as a private individual. How can I flexibly onboard my car to a car sharing network? This is me as an enterprise on how can I sell the access to my data that I actually have. Or this is me as another enterprise who has an AI but doesn't know how to properly train the AI because I need more data for that AI, and the other companies won't share their data which they have, but maybe are willing to let my AI train on their database. So to do exactly that, we have developed a toolkit of different technical components which we then use to achieve exactly that. So we can see here the benefits which are then acquired for the end users, for developers, and also for businesses. So let's talk about this toolkit. So the core of what we do is we have developed a technology which is called Frost. Frost is a domain-specific language which is used to create policies. Such a policy could be I, Nick, write a policy to John so that John can access my car during a predefined time and a predefined date. He has the ability to access the car, both the trunk as well as maybe the driving place, and he has also the ability to allow the function turn on the engine to happen. So Frost as a language allows you to create these policies, and this is basically focused around the topic of access control. So I'm not going to do a technical deep dive on access control, but access control is basically in every part of our life. It's me unlocking my phone with my thumb, it's me giving someone else access to Google Sheets and so on. So next to Frost, we have developed the proof of kernel work. Proof of kernel work is, as the name says, has something to do with proof of work, but instead of requiring all the nodes to participate in the mining race with proof of kernel work, a small committee gets selected before the actual mining race, and only that small committee then does the mining or does try to solve the puzzle. In the end, the winner gets selected, and that's it. What this results in is a much more energy efficient and much more scalable solution of proof of work with similar security aspects. Then we have developed a block tree-like structure. We have already heard something about block trees today, and I'm not going to do a deep dive in this either. But what I want to talk about is our embedded client. So I've been telling you about these policies I'm able to create, and to run these policies on a database doesn't really only do the trick, since we are also trying to get into an IoT world. So to put this into an IoT world, you have to program something which is able to run these policies, to compile these policies on a microcontroller, on some form of a chip, which is inside a car, inside a smart door lock, inside a parcel box, and so. So this we have also developed, and then we have developed a reference big data architecture, which we call Vault, which has basically predefined APIs and is able to interconnect different enterprises with each other. Last of all, we have developed a token. I'm going to come to the specific functionalities of the token later on. So when it comes to actual traction, we have been able to not only get some, but quite a significant amount. What I can disclose right now is that we have built a POC with Porsche this year in January. And with this POC with Porsche, we were basically setting up a dongle, plugged it to the CAN bus of the car, and were able to run the policies I've been talking about on the car. So I could actually create a policy stating that Simon, my colleague, could open the trunk of my car. This would be stored as a transaction on the blockchain, and everything would be fine. But since this was only a POC and this was only made for demonstration purposes, we thought, okay, we have to do more about this. So this is why we engaged in a constant partnership with Infineon. Infineon is a German company, but is one of the biggest microcontroller developers of the world. So Infineon produces 1/10 of all microcontrollers which are built into the cars of the planet right now. And what we're achieving with them is to bring these compilers, these Frost compilers, into every car that is using the Infineon microcontrollers. Another use case I want to talk about is this one here. It says EV charging provider. I can't disclose the name right now, but this is a Chinese company you have been in contact with for a long time. And the idea behind this is basically me as a private individual. I'm driving up with my EV scooter to a charging station. The moment I end up at the charging station, plug in the charger, I get an app on my phone. If I decide to watch I get an ad on my phone. If I decide to watch the ad, the charging process is for free. So this is combining our Frost technology. We have some access control in the background, which is the advertising company buying access to some part of my data, meaning my actual location and maybe some profiling. And then this value is automatically transferred to the charging station itself, so that I don't have to pay for the charging process itself anymore. So we're rolling out this currently with 800,000 charging stations in China, which is going to be absolutely huge. Another case in the place of data sharing is what we're building with a logistics consortia. This is basically a track and tracing case. I think everybody of you has heard about this. So how can I, throughout the entire supply chain of a product, can track the different components? And then it becomes really interesting and really fancy. So what we're currently building with another German OEM is a solution of how the car itself can recognize me as the device owner or someone who is allowed to use the vehicle by policy with the power of AI, and then Frost, our access control language, can decide whether or not I'm actually allowed to open up the car or not. So I was talking about the token and fast. The token is going to be a native currency of the system. So it has a couple of functionalities. One is that we will have the proof of kernel work, and this is going to require miners to participate in the system. So we will have a block reward, which is going to be distributed amongst the miners, and we will also require some collateral, which has to be staked by the different miners. So we have a security function in the background here running, which is if I, as a node who is mining, behave maliciously, my stake is going to get burned. We've played around with some modeling here, and so far we are really satisfied with the results. Then the token itself is going to work as the native currency of the system, a seamless, frictionless currency, so to say, all the transactions could also be done in fiat, but then you would have some more transaction costs, which is why we foresee the token to function really well here. And we will use the token to prevent data double spending, which is quite a complex topic. I'm happy to talk about it later on. And we also are planning to use the token to incentivize validation of the actual uploaded data, so that I, as an enterprise who's trying to purchase data, have validity that the data I'm currently purchasing is actually real and has some value behind it. The market we are targeting is really hard to describe, but I've brought two examples of what the market is, what we can foresee currently, and this is a huge market. So we have 1.5 trillion of additional revenue in the space of automotive or shared mobility space, and another $3.6 trillion when it comes to data marketplaces which are based on distributed ledger technology. So this is huge, and this doesn't show the entire market we're targeting. And of course, we're not going to get the entire market, but it's a huge potential. And what I think is the most interesting part is that with Frost technology, we have the power to create this new access I was talking about. So how can I let AI agents of other companies train on my database? And there is simply no estimate on how big that market can be in the future, which is why we can't even say a prognosis of how big this is going to be like. So our roadmap currently looks like this. We are a spin-off of Oxford University and Imperial College, where Live and Michael, two of our founders, met a couple of years ago and were starting to look into distributed intelligent networks. So last year in February, we incorporated in Berlin, where we are still sitting. Then we were able to win the first Porsche Innovation Contest, on which we started to build our first POC. And this year in March, in April, we were founding the XAIN Foundation. So the XAIN Foundation is basically going to work as a roof to connect, as a neutral roof to connect all the dots we are currently building. So a lot of the POCs and a lot of the projects we are currently doing, they are done by the AG and the foundation in the same way. And the foundation will work as an overall roof to connect these different projects and interconnect these different projects. So this week on Thursday, we were announcing our open sourcing of Frost technology and some other technical components we have developed. This will be found on our GitHub later on. And by Q1 next year, we are planning to release a testnet so that developers can start to play around with it. And also, we will kick off our joint venture with the Chinese company I was talking about. So for the next year, we foresee also the launch of the mainnet by the end of the year. And by 2020, we are planning to have more than 1 million devices online, more than 1,000 miners, and 40 corporate members to be onboarded to the XAIN Foundation. So our team itself, I think, is incredibly strong and speaks its own language. We are currently, I think, 35 people with a high degree of engineers. So Live, our CEO and founder, he is actually, Michael, he has been a doctor father of Live. They met at Imperial College. And Live and Felix, they met at Daimler, so they have strong industry background. Simon, who is in charge of business development, he's been the founder of Bundesblock, which is the biggest association for blockchain in Germany. Then we have Trin, which she's a really experienced lawyer from Harvard and has been working at Boston Consulting Group for a long time. And myself, I have a background in consulting as well as venture capital, and I'm currently the one who is connecting the dots between the XAIN AG and the XAIN Foundation to onboard enterprises on both ways. So I think that's it for me today. I thank you very much for your time. If you have any further questions, come by, see me at the booth. Happy to answer your questions. Thanks.
Actually, we can have a couple of questions right now, so we do have a few minutes. If anybody wants to ask any questions right now?
Can you comment on data DAO spending? That's very interesting.
Yeah, let's do it outside maybe, because I think it's much more explicable if I show you a graph to it.
Oh, sure. Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, just at the back with the red shirt.
Who?
Yeah, I just wanted to check the feasibility to integrate it with other AI ops tools like CADOI, Digital Operation Insight.
Sorry, could you repeat the question, please?
Can we integrate with other AI tools like CA Digital Operation Insight or maybe another tools to bring the more analytics and the error correction functioning?
So we designed Frost to be absolutely tech agnostic. So it's integratable with whatever you want when it comes to integrate what you've been talking about onto our block tree structure, I need some more details. But Frost itself is blockchain or DLT agnostic.
Okay, so I will just take a note of your email, and then accordingly we'll send you the details.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Cool.
Thank you.
Let's follow up with the other question about Frost. To me, it looks like access and security has a very close interrelationship. I'm just wondering whether in your future plans, will you be like going into more security aspect of the usage using Frost?
So from a security perspective, Frost has high features. There is a dedicated tech talk from our CTO, Michael Hutt, online, where he's explaining in half an hour the benefits of using Frost and why it is, what are the security components of it. So we started off with being as secure as possible.
I think we can take a last question.
What's the economic model for recruiting validators?
For data validators, you mean? We are currently modeling some different solutions. Can't disclose yet.